I will be in my room if you need me." She bounded up the stairs after giving me a brief hug. I eyed Harrison accusingly, which he just returned with a shrug. "Okay, I'm pretty sure you're tired." "So, follow me," Harrison said, breaking the awkward silence. I followed close behind him, noticing that his shoulders were tense. Opening the first door on the right revealed a room that screamed Harrison all over it. The walls were a grayish blue, and his neatly tucked king-size bed sat in the middle. The sheets were black, shining slightly from the light that was emitting from the white lampshade near his bed. Obviously, it was black silk, and for some reason, that sent butterflies to erupt in my belly. The carpet was white and shaggy, giving the room a cozy feeling. Even his couch was white. A black door that sat on the left wall was obviously his bathroom. His huge mahogany desk that sat underneath the window on the right wall was neat. Everything in this room was neat. I gaped like a fish, but quickly shut my mouth as I realized Harrison was watching my reaction. I cleared my throat before saying, "Nice room, Dot." "Thanks," he replied before going to a mahogany dresser and rummaging through it. He pulled out a gray t-shirt and some blue basketball shorts. "So, I hope you don't take this the wrong way. I know you're feeling icky in that shirt that you were sweating in all night, and those shorts are filled with little glass crystals. We both don't want you feeling, uncomfortable tonight." He handed the items to me, still not looking me straight in the eyes. I just sighed as I watched him go back to his dresser, pulling out shorts and a shirt for him. He then sat at his leather chair, still not looking at me. "Thanks," I sighed again and trudged to the bathroom, feeling irritation from the way he was acting. I quickly changed my clothes and groaned when the shorts kept slipping off. I decided regretfully that I had to ditch the shorts and just stick with the shirt. Luckily, the shirt reached mid-thigh and wasn't too short for my black lacy thong to peep through it. Then, I groaned again when I realized I wasn't wearing a bra. The tank top I was wearing earlier had a built-in bra, and if I were to wear it again, I'd smell like a dying pig. I mentally slapped my mom for not handing me extra clothes before shipping me off over here. Inhaling Harrison's amazing scent once more, I opened the bathroom door remorsefully. Yes, I was feeling sorry over poor old me. I mean, what girl wouldn't, right? Harrison's back was facing to me as he played with a pencil on his desk. I noticed he already changed into a similar gray shirt and black basketball shorts. Once he heard the door close again, he looked back at me, his smile fading as his eyes trailed down my body, his eyes lingering on my legs a bit longer. His Adam's apple moved up and down as he gulped, and his eyes were dilating, becoming darker. He quickly shut his eyes, and he shook his head, trying to clear any thoughts he had at the moment. I felt my face heat up, especially after I saw him in a failed attempt to cover his happy camper with a nearby pillow. Now, I really wanted to pinch my mom for letting me stay here. Shifting uncomfortably, I decided to throw the shorts at him, which he quickly caught. I said, "Sorry, the shorts were too big for me. It kept sliding off." He looked everywhere else but me, training his eyes on the bookshelf behind me. You want to borrow Betty's clothes instead?" "And no," I stuttered. Now, don't get the wrong idea. I wasn't a slut or anything. I just didn't want to be a burden to Betty. You know that feeling of being ashamed to stay at someone's house for your benefit? Yeah, I was definitely feeling that right now. The thought of borrowing someone's clothes were a pain to me. Even Harrison's shirt was enough to make me feel like I was a bother. "No, you're not a bother." "Actually, you're welcomed anytime," Harrison said, moving to the bed to grab some pillows. He still was acting silly, not looking at me in the eye at all, this whole trip here. "So, you can sleep on the bed. I'll take the couch." "Harrison," I said, grabbing his arm when he was about to pass me. The familiar heat came back to me, pulsing at the places we made contact. He finally looked down at me with those beautiful blue eyes, and I smiled slightly. He smiled back, and I almost forgot what I was about to say. "Seriously, if you're uncomfortable with my being here, I could go home or stay with Betty as much as I don't want to bother her." I began to move towards the door when I felt Harrison freeze under my hand. His eyes were distant, and his face was emotionless once again. Nearing the door, he half yelled, "No!" Then, his strong arms gripped my waist, turning me around and hugging me. He buried his face in my wavy hair, which was so not in a good shape right now. I squeaked when I felt his warmth seep through the thin cotton of our shirts. His chest touching my chest made the blood rush up my neck and cheeks because the thought of not wearing a bra hit me again. Please, don't leave. I can't bear the thought of you being out of my sight. I felt my arms wrap around him, my hands running up and down his back in comfort. Then why are you being like this? I whispered against his chest. Because I'm afraid I might hurt you, which I might lose control, especially seeing you in my shirt. Gosh, Els, you're so beautiful and you smell so freaking good, he complimented, inhaling my scent that made me go weak in the knees. That's why I'm scared. I don't trust myself. Hey, I said sternly, pushing him away slightly. His arms were still around my waist, where I wanted them to be at. My hands were holding his face, fingers brushing his cheeks, which held a slight pink tinge. Gosh, the look he was giving me was sending my heart in overdrive. I trust you, Harrison, I whispered, going up on my tiptoes and giving him a lingering peck. I looked into his blue eyes, that were now fluttering closed. It was filled with so much passion and adoration that it made the butterflies in my stomach much worse. My eyes fluttered closed, as well as I felt his warm lips meet mine again. That was all it took for my toes to curl and my lips to stretch into smile against his. He, too, smiled and grabbed my hand that rested on his shoulder, intertwining our fingers. His other hand wrapped around my waist, bringing us closer. I felt his heartbeat quicken with mine, and at this precise moment, I wanted nothing more than to be with this guy. I felt his tongue sweep across my lips, and as granted, I gave him entrance. We both moaned at the same time as our dance together. I giggled into his mouth while he chuckled into mine. This kiss was so sweet and passionate. It wasn't rushed, pushed, or rough. It was perfect in every way. It made me think he wanted this moment to last too, as he sucked my lips and kissed me silly. However, I was just a regular human being that eventually ran out of breath. Because Harrison noticed it, he pulled away, kissing the crescent shape mark he gave me that night he bit me. That was all it took for me to gasp and let out a breathy moan. He eventually continued to suck at that sweet part, making it darker for everyone to see. You are mine, he murmured across my skin. He inhaled my scent deeply and kissed the mark he gave me. I shuddered as he lightly nipped it. Jesse, you are mine and only mine, you understand? Once he came back up and rested his forehead against mine, I smiled at him. The warm smile he gave me was enough to make my eyes sparkle in happiness. His eyes were dilating again as they were turning darker to a light gold and into his normal blue ones. I nodded against him and said, "Always, Dot." He laughed and pulled away reluctantly, still holding my hand. Well, you better get some sleep, Els. I promised your mom I'd take care of you. He led me to his bed, pulling the covers for me as I laughed. I lay down on his soft bed and sighing as I felt the silk caress my skin. Only now, I realized that I was tired as I felt my eyes droop. By the way, what were you really talking to my mom about? I asked, my voice raspy from exhaustion. His eyebrow shot up before answering sternly. Just staying here, like she said. The way he said it made me know not to ask any more questions. So, I just nodded and yawned. Harrison gave me a quick kiss on the forehead before saying, "Good night, Els." Hey, where do you think you're going? I asked irritably when I saw him heading to the couch. To sleep, he said dumbfounded. I rolled my eyes and patted the spot next to me. Nope, you're asleep next to me. But, he began, his eyes displaying indecision. No buts. Just come over here, I said, crossing my arms and giving him the best puppy dog face I could muster. Pee-wees? He rolled his eyes before sighing and pulling the covers, getting in next to me. I watched as he scooted a bit closer and wrapped his arms around me. Fine, just for you, he said as I closed my eyes. Whatever, you know you wanted to, I said, popping one eye open. Oh, shut up and go to sleep, Els. I eyed his shirt and gave him a pointed look. Just get comfortable like always. Keep calm and take your shirt off. We all know most guys sleep without a shirt. It's like nature for them, I said in a matter-of-fact tone. You just want to see me shirtless, he smirked, waggling his eyebrows. Maybe, I shrugged. Just take off the damn shirt. He sat up, pulling the shirt over his head and throwing it on his couch. He gave me that, Are you happy now? Look. I smirked and gave him a once-over, lingering my eyes on his six-packs. I nodded appreciatively before he snorted and said, "Perv." He lay back down again and I smacked his shoulder. Whatever. I tried to ignore the heat emitting from his body, especially being so close to him like this. I kept my arms to myself as he wrapped one around my waist. Trust me, I was afraid what I might do if I touched that delicious chest in his six-pack. I was scared, like him, that I might lose control. Maybe we should be even. Take off your shirt now, Harrison mocked, smirking at me. I rolled my eyes and ignored the red tinting my cheeks. Obviously, he had known I wasn't wearing a bra. Then, he said nothing but looked at me with concern. His eyes stared into my green ones. His face read it all. Fear, concern, doubt, etc. We stayed like that for a couple of minutes before I trailed a finger down his jawline in comfort. "What are you thinking about?" I whispered. "Nothing," he lied. We both know that's a lie. "What's really up?" "Well," he sighed and hugged me closer. "Don't take this the wrong way, but I have a bad feeling about Amanda." "My brother's wife?" I asked, my eyebrows rising up. "Yeah, I just think it was odd she has been gone to the bathroom for almost an hour, and we had that incident in your room. And since she arrived, you've been threatened. It's just too big of a coincidence." "Harrison," I sighed, rubbing his cheek with my thumb. "Amanda would never do that. We can't just assume things, okay? I know you're worried about me. Let's just drop it for now, okay? I'm really sleepy." He nodded in understanding and kissed my nose and forehead again. That was all it took for me to close my eyes and drift into a deep sleep. My eyes fluttered open, and all I could see was the light streaming from the slit of the curtains. To tell you the truth, I'd thought I'd see Harrison since he was sleeping in front of me when I drifted to sleep last night. However, he wasn't in sight, but the sound of his snoring and the heat that was being blown onto my neck confirmed that he was now behind me. I felt his arm around my waist, and I would have felt comfortable in this position. But, of course, I didn't. I felt his, pressing against my back, and my face flushed at how huge it felt. His leg that was between mine crept higher and higher, and the hand that belonged to the arm slung across my waist was rubbing my stomach all too passionately. His hand then moved from my stomach, down my legs, and it rubbed against my inner thigh, moving dangerously close to my private area. I squeaked, but he didn't hear me. As he was moving back up, I heard him mutter something, but I couldn't place a finger on what he said. His hand moved dangerously up my arm, leaving a trail of goosebumps there. I felt his warm hand go back down to my belly before going back up and cupping one of my breasts, ignoring what he was muttering. Even if it felt really good, I squeaked in embarrassment, my face going a deep shade of red. This caused Harrison to shoot his eyes open and look at me in alert, eyeing the room for any danger. He noticed my red face before he followed his hand down to where he was currently groping. This caused him to jolt back enough for him to fall off the bed and landing on the floor with a loud thump. I laughed at him, even if the situation was kind of awkward, and looked at his figure on the floor, his hand rubbing the back of his head. "I'm so sorry, Els. I really didn't know what I was doing," Harrison said, smiling apologetically. "Oh, shut up, big boy. You apologize too much for accidents," I said irritably before pouting. "Don't I get a good morning kiss?" "And finally, the moment you have all been waiting for," Father Gregory has said, smiling widely at the two couples looking eagerly at him. What was I supposed to say again?" he asked, scratching his balding head, white patches of hair peeping through. The corner of his eyes crinkled in amusement as he smiled wickedly at the couple, who was practically jumping up and down with impatience. The crowd laughed at Father Gregory's sense of humor and Andrew and Amanda's impatience. I mean, it was a huge crowd, the church filled with all of our small-town citizens, ranging from a newborn to the elderly who were able to make some history in our town. Even Amanda's immediate family was there, but boy was it huge. She had about 17 brothers and sisters and 13 nephews and nieces. Some of her cousins and close friends showed up as well. My face was screwed up into the utmost happiness for my brother. My light pink-tinted lips stretched into a big smile that made the corners of my eyes wrinkle. I was glad that our beauty artist had put on waterproof mascara and eyeliner, because crying and tearing up was all I was able to do this whole procession. I watched as my brother, who was in a black tux and his hair slicked up messily, and circled his arm around Amanda's petite waist. He looked charming as ever, with his brown eyes twinkling and his face in utter happiness. Amanda wiped away a stray tear, her dark red, long-lasting lipstick a huge contrast to her pale and pretty face. Her dress was pretty, with jewels, studs, and crystals that shined across the ivory silk material of the corset top. The dress ended in a big poof that reached the floor, but when she picked it up so she could walk, we saw white pumps with intricate details. Finally, her trail that seemed like a waterfall as it cascaded behind her. Her blonde hair swept into an updo, her bangs curled to frame her face. I had to say the couple looked stunning. Perfect. My mom, who sat beside me on the pew, sobbed silently. She looked at me, before she smiled and clutched my hand in her own. I squeezed her hand gently as she whispered, "I can't believe he's getting married already. My baby boy, all grown up." I patted her hand and almost laughed, but we were in a church for crying out loud. And I was one of Amanda's bridesmaids. If I laughed now, everyone would give me the stink eye. "Okay, fine, Andrew," Father Gregory sighed, slugging his shoulders playfully. "The moment you have all been waiting for, or shall I say, the moment Andrew has been waiting for." He smiled, adding a dramatic affect before raising his hand slightly and saying, "You may now kiss the bride." Congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Andrew Turner. Everyone whooped and clapped as Andrew swept Amanda so close to him. They looked into each other's eyes first, before their lips met halfway. I smiled as their eyes closed, and their arms went around each other. I clapped, loudly, even cheering loudly with everyone else. They pulled away, everyone clapping again. Afterwards, we took pictures, the flash blinding my eyes. The pictures ranged from family members to close friends, siblings, in-laws, entourage, etc. When we were done, my vision was completely obscured with black dots. Everyone exited the church and waited in the parking lot that was overflowing with cars, the cars even parking near the road. I had to say this was the biggest wedding I've ever seen in our small town. "Okay, everyone," Andrew yelled, his arms still encircled around Amanda. He raised his other arm in the air, his fist clear to the swarm of people. "Let's party." I laughed at his bluntness at wanting to celebrate. Well, I didn't blame him. He just got married to someone who loves him equally, maybe even more. All I knew was that they loved each other, and that was all that mattered. "Oh, gosh, Jessie," Mom sobbed, wiping her tears lightly with a tissue. Her cheeks and nose were red. She fixed her light pink dress lightly before clutching me in a hug. "I can't believe my kids are growing up so fast." "Mom," I laughed, but a deep voice that sent me shivers interrupted me. "Wow," Harrison said from behind me. I turned around to find him with his head held high and his mouth set into a tiny smile. His blue eyes twinkled as he saw smile at him appreciatively. I ran up to him, flinging my arms around his neck in a tight embrace while his arms went around my waist. I shuddered lightly when I heard him sharply inhale my scent, and instantly, I felt his body calm down under my touch. I closed my eyes and relished the warmth of him near me. Then he pushed me away slightly, taking my hand and twirling me around. "Don't you look beautiful?" he said proudly, eyeing my attire. My dark hair was swept to one side in a fancy ponytail, soft curls falling through it. I wore makeup today, something I haven't done in a long time, making my green eyes pop out from my dark and long eyelashes that were coated with mascara. Even my lips popped out with the light pink lipstick I have on. My pink dress was made of silk, one shoulder-sleeved covered in flowers and the length being promising, the dress hugging my curves right below my knees. Even in these black heels, I was still a head shorter than Harrison. "Dot, you don't look too bad yourself," I said, winking at him and eyeing him up and down. He was in a white button-down shirt that rolled up to his sleeves, and dark-washed jeans finished up with Nike shoes. His jet-black hair was styled messily like always. "Yeah, I know I do," he said cockily, leaning down and kissing my cheek, still holding my hand. I kissed his cheek as well, lingering my lips on his smooth skin for longer than necessary. I knew we had to keep it innocent, especially in front of my mom and my family. "Hey, Angela," he said, clearing his throat and slung his arm around my shoulder. "You look beautiful," he continued, still trying to impress my mom. "Oh, shut up," my mom said sternly, ignoring the look I gave her. "You don't have to kiss up to me." You do enough for me, letting my daughter stay with you until her room is done being fixed." She gave him a warm smile that she hardly gave people, unless she really trusted and knew them. I felt Harrison shift his weight. As I looked up at him, he looked down at me with a 100-watt smile. It was as if he won the lottery 2 times in a row. "It's really no problem, Angela. I'd do anything for her," he said sincerely. Even if it was what most guys said, I knew he truly meant it as I saw his pupils dilate a little bit, sending my heart in overdrive. "Call me Mom," she said, adding a wink. "You better be careful," I said to Harrison, chuckling silently. "Aunt Heather is checking you out." We looked towards the table where my 60-year-old aunt sat. She pushed her round-framed glasses up, squinting at Harrison even if she wore glasses. When she realized we were looking at her, she fluffed her auburn-colored wig and smiled, showing her pearly white dentures. Oh gosh, this was like family reunion. Everyone asked how I was, if I work, whether my grades were bad or not, what I was up to now, a days, etc. However, all I knew is that they were asking just to find something to gossip about. Some of the older ones were warm and honest, and I loved that. When I mean that everyone was at the wedding, I meant everyone I knew as well. The Stone and Avalon Pack were here, and let me tell you, they were all dressed so stunningly that everyone else looked plain and dull. All my classmates were here, friends, and acquaintances that I had said hi to as well. Even some of the girls who gave me glares as Harrison and I made contact were there. Many of them are the sluts he played with before, and my cousins, that the majority of them were only probably 13 or 14. "Hey, let's go dance," Harrison whispered in my ear, sending shivers down my spine. I cocked an eyebrow and looked straight into his eyes. "You dance?" Oh, yeah, D. "He dances," Betty said, flipping her slick straight hair behind her shoulder, her hair looking like a waterfall against that lilac dress. "Ask the guys." "He has some moves," Perry said, nudging Nell, who was too busy staring at Jennifer. Scott just nodded his head, digging it in his food. Clark and Sam snickered at their motion. Jennifer blushed, but James clutched her close to him as if to tell Nell to back off. If you asked where Brian was, he was on the dance floor already. Apparently, the music was the bomb, as Brian had said. I laughed once again as I met Harrison's impatient eyes again. "I would love to, Dot," I smiled. We got up from the round table we were all sitting on, leaving them to eat while Nell and Perry played with the pink and red floral centerpiece. I walked towards the dance floor that had drapes coming out from the romantic faux rooftop with Harrison close behind. Right when we got there, the music changed into a slow one. Harrison pulled me close to him, his hands around my waist and his chin resting on my head. I sighed, leaning into him, my head against his chest. I welcomed his warmth, smell, and his erratic heartbeat. To tell you the truth, I totally forgot that there were people there, that the newlyweds were dancing as well, and the other couples came up on stage. All I felt was me and him, living the moment like it was our last. "You're not too bad," I joked as Harrison twirled me around. "Not too bad?" Now that hurts. He feigned hurt, his lips pouting playfully. I squeaked as he skillfully dipped me, him smiling widely at me as he hovered over me. He pulled us back, touching his forehead to mine. I stared at his blue eyes, amazed at the depth and feelings that swam around it. We heard someone clear their throats. Turning our heads reluctantly, we saw Brian standing awkwardly. I smiled at him as he said, "Hey man, do you mind if I dance with Jessie?" "No," I answered as Harrison sighed and let go of me unwillingly. I laughed at his bluntness. "Come on, big boy, just one song. Besides, I miss Brian." I watched as Harrison flicked my nose, and before I could protest, he ran away and asked my mom politely if she wanted to dance. Putting my hand in Brian's own, he pulled me close to him in a friendly way, and I sighed, realizing how much I actually missed him. "I didn't know you had an older brother. Let alone him being my brother's best man," I said, nodding to an older-looking Brian. He wore a red button-down and slacks, his hair blonde and messy. He had a little scruff and charming hazel eyes. Brian shrugged and said, "That's how I knew your brother. He and Jamie, my brother, are best friends." I feel smart. "I learned something," I said while he chuckled. "You look beautiful tonight, by the way," Brian said as we swayed to the music. "Lit? No cheesy pickup line?" I gasped, secretly smiling in the inside. Better be careful, Brian. Your reputation status is going low. Oh, shush that tiny pie hole. I'm at a wedding. I feel particularly romantic, he scoffed. So, why don't you ask Betty to dance? I said, motioning my eyes in her direction where she smiled at Nell and Perry as they told her a story. He looked at her for a while before a blush crept its way onto his neck and face. Even his ears were pink. I cocked my eyebrow at him, waiting for his reply. Because, well, hello? She's Betty, he sighed. I can never meet her expectations. I pinched his cheeks while he scowled at me. Oh, is the little blushing player finally shy? Has he finally found the one special crush? I cooed. He swatted my hand away and his cheeks reddened. Be quiet, Jessie. You're so loud. She is the one. I just was too in denial to realize it sooner, he blurted out. Once my eyes widened and his mouth clamped shut when he realized what he just said, I pinched his arm. Ow, he yelled, earning some glares from people. He asked her to dance. You idiot, I demanded, clenching my teeth and putting my hands on my hips. He looked at me in horror as I slapped his shoulder again. Go. Fine, ow, I said I would. Brian exclaimed, running towards Betty, who watched him with big eyes. I smiled cheekily as Harrison came back and wrapped his arms around me again. Oh, Jessie, what have you done this time? He teased, kissing my forehead. They'll be thanking me later. Yeah, right after they… Well, isn't it my big girl so grown up already? Never thought I'd see the day where she's clinging to a boy, a familiar voice said with smugness. I turned around to see the person I tried so hard to avoid this whole night. He held a wine glass with the red wine staining its clear surface, while his other hand held the itsy-bitty waist of the blonde woman who was half his age. Tell me, do I have to beat you up, Sonny, just to let you know not to hurt my daughter? Dad, I said, scowling at his little remark. I felt Harrison straighten up behind me, his chest against my back and his hands rubbing smoothing circles on my waist. My father's narrowed eyes flew to his hands and back to my face again. I turned my head to look at Sandra, who was busy trying to throw a flirtatious smile to Harrison, who was completely ignoring her. She had on all the diamonds where it was possible to be at. Diamond necklace, rings, bracelet, anklets, or whatever you name. Hell, even the one strap on her inappropriate dress, which was clung to her body, hugging her balloon, plastic boobs and short enough to see her butt cheek popping out, was encrusted with diamonds. Sandra, I sneered as she gagged at me. Tell me, honey, is that young boy forcing you into all of this? My father said, eyeing Harrison. No, I scoffed, patting Harrison's hand that went stiff. Don't lie to me, my father said while I rolled my eyes. I tried to keep my calm, feeling Harrison behind me, his breath tickling the hair on top of my head. Oh, come on, Hughes, Sandra said in her nasally voice. Why would he go for her? I was about to pounce on her, but I wanted to hear my father's reply. He looked at us while I felt Harrison's hand start to shake at my hips. I held it in both my hands, trying to calm him down. The corner of my father's lip went up as he said, That's exactly what I was thinking. She looks like a slut now, Georgie, Sandra said, flipping her hair. Oh, it was on. I let go of Harrison, already trying to pounce on the blonde bimbo in front of me while the tears spilled out of my eyes. Even my dad deserved a smack in the face. Right when my nails were about to reach her face and her high-pitched scream sounded in the air, Harrison wrapped his arms around my waist and pushed me behind him. Brian helped hold me back while I was struggling so hard in his arms. Mr. Turner, I heard the bitterness in Harrison's tone. I think the only person here trying to hurt her is you and… He turned his head a little, and I'm guessing it was at Sandra before continuing. Ms. Blondie over here. And if you were really wondering why I'm going for your daughter, it's because she's beautiful in every single way possible. Look, son, I don't think you know who you're talking to. My father's voice rang out in the silence. From where I could see, my dad had stepped up, his nose now touching Harrison's own, even if Harrison was a few inches taller than him. No disrespect, Mr. Turner, but I think I do, Harrison challenged. Right before my dad could throw a punch, Andrew caught his fist and put it down. He put his body in between the two, putting a few distance between them. What the hell is going on? Dad, this is my wedding for Christ's sake, Andrew cried, anger clear on his face. I watched as my dad went to stand next to Sandra again, her pathetic cries coming from her ugly mouth. My mom had her hands on her hips, shaking her head, her lips a thin line. The Stone and Avalon Pack already standing up in their seats and looked as if they were about to pounce on anyone who made a sudden move. My family members and everyone else just watched with eyebrows raised, their mouths agape. Then, all I heard was a low growl that caused me to turn my head everywhere, looking for the unique sound. It was so eerie and caused goosebumps to rise on my forearms. Everyone turned to look at me, and to my surprise, I found that the strange noise erupted from deep below my belly to the back of my throat. It was only now that I realized lips were pulled back, showing off my clenched teeth. Holy crap! Her eyes, Andrew mumbled as I saw the world changing to strange colors before my eyes. What the hell is happening to me? Harrison, get her out of here and calm her down. Now, my brother demanded. Harrison grabbed my hand, pulling me out of the murmuring and whispering crowd and out to the grassy plains of my backyard, where the wedding wasn't being held at. He quickly sat me down on the tree